All right, well, joining us now, we've got Regina Romero, the first woman and first Latina mayor of Tucson, Arizona. Well, earlier this spring, you were named chair of the Latino Alliance for the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Welcome. So glad that you're joining us here this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations to The Hill for organizing the Latina Leaders Summit, as well as Telemundo for helping put this together. And I just feel honored to be included in this long list of amazing nationwide group of Latinas that are just incredible, and their stories are amazing. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, like you said, and you're joining that long list of incredible women who are making an impact. Like I just said, the first woman, first Latina mayor of Tucson. And on top of that, you're the only Latina mayor in the 50 largest cities in the United States. What kind of added pressure does that put on you, when you're making your policies and making decisions and in your leadership of the city?
Well, Lex, I'm pretty sure you are familiar with being the first on stuff, right? Many of the women that have been invited to this event today are the first. But I have been the first in so many different spaces. I was the first Latina ever elected to the Tucson City Council back in November of 2007. I was the first in my family to attend a university and graduate from college. First in my family born in the United States. I'm the daughter of immigrant farm workers and the youngest of 6. And so I was the first one to vote, to be able to have the right to vote, born in here in Arizona. And much later, my siblings, my parents became naturalized U.S. citizens so that they could vote. And so it's something that I've not really been conscious about, but just been able to go ahead and move forward and do unconsciously. But when I became the first Latina mayor and the first woman ever in the history of the city of Tucson, I knew it was going to be the first, but I didn't know the impact that it has made, not just here in Tucson in Arizona, but around the country. When I woke up the next day after I won, and we saw Telemundo, Univision, other, TV channels and different media outlets throughout the country reporting on this, it hit me that I have a responsibility to be able to open these doors, and that the mere election of the first Latina mayor ever in the history of our city really brings a lot of responsibility of being able to bring others along with me and opening the doors for so many young Latinas and women in this country.
Right, shattering that glass ceiling and then making sure that it stays open. And you talked to us just now briefly about some of your childhood background. Could you talk to us a little bit more about that, and also how that influences your leadership over Tucson and then working with other jurisdictions on various initiatives that you guys have locally?
Yes, well, I carry with me my parents' history. And my dad always used to say, in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you come from. And so the experiences of having immigrant parents and working in the fields and migrating from Arizona to California to Colorado really made me appreciate the value of hard work and dedication and having and setting goals. And so my parents always taught me to value hard work and get a good education and go after my dreams. And so being able to carry that experience with me, it has really set me up to the policy and decisions that I have been making as a council member here in the city of Tucson and as mayor. So I've never forgotten my roots and who I am and where I come from, and really dedicate myself to improving the lives of working families, just like mine. And education, for me, higher education was the ticket to improve the quality of my life and the life of my family. And so I continue fighting for the issues that have made my family succeed and thrive. And so those are the issues that I dedicate my life on. And so my past really contributes to what I do now and into the future, and it is something that I feel in my heart, and so it's a passion of mine. In terms of working with colleagues here on the Tucson City Council and other mayors throughout Arizona and throughout the country, being named the chair of the Latino Alliance for the U.S. Conference of Mayors has been an important step, and I have a lot of plans to connect to other mayors throughout the country that not only are Latinos, but have growing populations of Latino communities in their cities. To work on the issues that make a difference to the lives of Latinos in this country is just incredible. I have a lot of plans for the Latino Alliance and working with the African American Mayors Associations and forming alliances to work on voting issues and making sure that public education is funded, voting rights, so many issues that cross from Latinos to African Americans to indigenous communities to including LGBTQ and rural low-income communities. A lot of these issues cross-pollinate, and it's something that we need to make sure that we're working on together. Here in Arizona during the pandemic, I worked with a lot of mayors, including our mayor of Phoenix and the mayor of Flagstaff, all of us women, to make sure that we were keeping our communities safe throughout the pandemic, many times going against Arizona's governor to make sure that we were protecting our residents with the policies and decisions that made sense and were based on science.
Right, and then we see my colleague over here, he's got a question for you as well, and I'm sure going to be following up on some of those points that you just hit on as well.
Absolutely. So you are a mayor, a progressive mayor in a purple state, and that means there are very different interpretations and very different assurances for a bunch of rights, whether it's women's rights, the right to choose, voting rights, definitely immigrant rights, labor, you name the issue. Those rights are not guaranteed in one way or another for Arizonans. Do you believe that other progressive structures, the Democratic Party, other mayors around the country, are they hearing you when you defend Latinos and Latinas in your state and really point out that these rights are not guaranteed?
Absolutely, unfortunately. And, even though my parents immigrated to Arizona and to this country, my family has been living in the Sonoran Desert for the past 7 generations, and that is including my kids. In the Sonoran Desert crosses both into Sonora, Mexico, and Arizona. And so we are from here. And so, seeing Arizona become the guinea pig to these conservative policies has been painful and a struggle, especially when Arizona with SB 1070, we became a national example of anti-immigrant rhetoric. And at that time, I was on the Tucson City Council, and Tucson became the first city in Arizona to join the court case, the Supreme Court case against the state of Arizona. But because of SB 1070 and the struggles that many of us first generation immigrants were facing, and the concerns and fear that we faced at the time, we started organizing ourselves. And many of the young people that were marching and rallying and protesting SB 1070 really started working on organizing ourselves and creating nonprofit organizations dedicated to informing and educating Latino voters and registering people to vote and getting them out to vote. And so the face of Arizona really has changed in the past 12 years because of those anti-immigrant laws passed, Mexican American education. There was a law passed back then at that time. And so we have worked really hard to educate Latino voters and bring them out to vote. So much so that in 2020, because of Latino voters and us participating, we switched the state. And it had not happened in more than 20 years in Arizona. So we are a force to be reckoned with here in Arizona. And many of the young people that were protesting and rallying back in 2010 have run for the state house, the state senate, city councils throughout the state. And we see continued movement forward when it comes to representation of what really Arizonans want for our state.
You mentioned some of that, anti-immigrant rhetoric and some of these laws that have been passed. And here recently, here in D.C., we've been covering, the migrants who are being sent by the busful from your state in Texas. What is that, what are your feelings and thoughts on that, on people being shipped away, instead of being welcomed to your state?
Yes, unfortunately, MAGA Republicans here in the state are using immigrants as a scapegoat. Instead, Arizona is the 49th state in the nation when it comes to investment in public education. We are right there with other southern states in terms of healthcare opportunities for children. We don't graduate enough students from high school to go into higher education. We have most horrendous rates of diabetes, and this plagues indigenous communities as well as Latino communities. We have so many ailments in terms of day-to-day working family needs. And what unfortunately Republicans are focusing on is, in their budget, they recently allocated more than $600 million of the state budget to finish Trump's wall. And where we have interstates that are crumbling. We have one of the worst rated public educational systems in the nation. We have one of the worst mental health and behavioral health systems in the nation. And so I believe that if we continue to talk about and fight for the real issues that affect working families in the state of Arizona, and we continue fighting for funding these issues, that at the end of the day, all of this bravado and showmanship and trying to divide Arizonans versus bringing them together is going to win the day, because most Arizonans, when we poll, they believe in comprehensive immigration reform. They believe in allowing dreamers to have in-state college tuition. They believe in having a woman, any person that is pregnant, choosing their own path in terms of having access to abortion services. So, unfortunately, the MAGA Republicans that have taken over the state are not representative of what Arizonans want or need in this state.
Mayor Romero, I could probably sit here and talk with you all day long, asking you questions to hear about your point of view. I so appreciate you, coming on here and talking with us today. This is Regina Romero, Mayor of Tucson, Arizona. It's been so great talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.